Oh my goodness, my mind is still blown because I personally cannot believe it that I made 10 whole years in Los Angeles, California. So, with this new series, My 10 Years in LA, one of the questions that I had, or one of the video prompts that I wanted to talk about, was one of my I'll say this, my early on Sundays in LA, the early on Sundays in LA and what they consisted of. I remember I used to go to One Church LA, and I just remember Sundays being just so freeing. I just remember Sundays being so freeing in a way of I knew that when I got to church that I would see my friends. I knew that I would see Felicia. I knew that I would see Herbie. I knew Levi Tyler would be there. I knew Zach would be there. I knew Josh would be there. And I knew that most Sundays after church, we would all get, first of all, let's rewind. We cannot just skip over church. We can't skip over Pastor Torre, and we cannot skip over Pastor Sarah. I went to One Church LA for years, and I loved it. I loved them being my pastors, and they will always hold a special place in my heart. And it was a place for everybody to gather. I think that was the most important thing, is that One Church LA welcomed everybody. And so I knew that on a Sunday, I would get to meet up with my friends. We would have a good time at church, but then after church, oh my gosh. Y'all, after church, we was going to cut up. I hate to say it like that, but no, we had a good time. These were early on days, y'all. We really did. And I remember after church, we would always find somewhere to go eat. And say if you didn't have any money, somebody else would cover you. We always made sure each other were good. So I remember one of our favorite places that it's closed to this day. COVID just ruined everything, but Sal's on Melrose. Yeah, we spent a lot of time on Melrose because the church is on Melrose and La Brea. So we spent a lot of time on Melrose Boulevard. Or is it, no, Melrose Avenue. We spent a lot of time on Melrose Avenue, but we spent a lot of times at Sal's. Yes, Sal's had the bottomless mimosas, and we would drink them on Sundays after church. Judge, ye not, or whatever it says. Be judge, or for I will judge, or whatever. I don't know. Throw the rock and hide your hand. I don't care, but we had a good time. Those days, you know, when you're inside of those moments, I never thought when I was inside of those moments that I would look back. You know, I've been here for 10 years. This is things I'm talking about are from 2017, 2018. I never thought I would look back these years later, or in that moment be like, oh, there's going to be a moment when I'm going to get to talk about this on camera. There's going to be a moment when I'm going to remember the days that, you know, Herbie, Felicia, and I went to Sal's and just cut up. Or when we had a reunion dinner, I think in 2021, where we all met up and we hadn't seen each other in a while, and just to talk again, you know, because life changes and we all go different directions. But those times, they're so important to me, times that I would never, ever forget. I remember when Zach just first started taking pictures, when he just first picked up the camera and got into photography, and to see him now doing headshots for all these people. I remember Josh used to come to church with his gym bag on Thursday night sometimes, and now Josh is a music artist. He's always done music. Now he's just elevated in his music career. Josh is just doing his thing. I see Herbie's doing his comedy stuff. I see Felicia booking gigs. I see she's on TikTok. I see all of these things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these are my first friends in LA. Memories of those times, and just to look back on them and just feel the love. Y'all, we didn't have much. Most of us had just gotten to LA, I think, you know, around that time or a little bit before, but all around the same timeline. And in LA, we were all looking for community. You know, a lot of times people say, oh, there's no community in LA. In a sense, I feel like that may be true for some, but have you tried to cultivate community? Also, you got to think about the people from LA versus the people that transplanted to LA. That's a whole different story. But just thinking about a typical Sunday in my life when in those earlier years of LA, it just really does bring me joy. I smile so hard. This is real, y'all. And I just think about those people that were there with me those Sundays. Those Sundays. And I remember even some Sundays we would go eat, and then I remember we would eat, but yeah, we would go to the 11 o'clock service. We would go eat, and then if it was like the time where, you know, the sun goes down late, then some of us would get back together that night. I remember Levi Tyler and I went and had rolled ice cream on Melrose that Sunday night because we had went and rested after the bottomless mimosas. Just memories. I remember Herbie living On a whole nother side of town is me. I lived in Van Nuys, that's in the valley, but we met at church, Melrose and La Brea, Thursday night. And I said, Herbie, let's go eat afterwards. Mind you, me and Herbie didn't really have no money. I was working at Chick-fil-A at the time. I said, I got you, Bubba. Don't worry about it. We go eat wings. I bring Bubba home. Herbie lives on LA, like in LA. And I get back on the freeway and drive all the way back to Van Nuys. But I never cared. It was never about, oh, he lives on this side of town. It was because, no, I wanted to be with my brother. We wanted to hang out. We were at church. We wanted to commune after church. And then I'm like, no, I'm going to bring him home. But no matter, it wasn't about, and I look at things like this. And for me, I think that's why I am just the way I am. I am such a people's person. It's never about what you have. It's about who you are for me. And even early on, I discovered those types of people, that it's who you are. And I will always love the first group of people that were my first friends here. That was my typical Sunday brunch club, church going people. We're sending texts in the group chat like, hey, you're going to church, or we're meeting at parties. I'm like, hey, Herbie, come to Shekay's party. Zach, meet me at Shekay's party. And then after Shekay's party, Zach is taking me home. Like those memories will forever stick with me. But that was my first like crew, that you could say. You could say like that was my first crew. And we're all branched out and we're all doing different things in our careers. We're all elevating. That's what I love to see. We might not talk every day. We might not even talk once every 6 months. But I know that maybe we need a reunion. Can we have a reunion? Maybe I'll put together a reunion. I remember one time, I think Herbie or Josh, I don't know who put together this reunion. Maybe it was me, but I think the last reunion that we were all together was 2016. Or no, I'm sorry, 2016 is when I moved here. I think it was 2019. I'm gonna have to look for the photo. But I think 2019 was the last time all of us were together. But then Herbie, Felicia, and we had a mini reunion because we were like the core three, the Three Musketeers. And we had one in, I think, 2021 after I had won The Price is Right and all of that. But these are people that I love and I will always love. So that was my typical Sunday when I first moved to Los Angeles.